Who knows? All right, and we're recording. So again, welcome. We're already mid conversation. To that point, Diane, and just kind of as a preface, this planning piece, similar to the goal setting, which most of us are still kind of working through to an extent, it's really an exercise in ongoing tasks. The planning never ends, right? Um,
Right.
I'm guilty as charged when I think to myself that I have this to-do list and I'm going to get it done. I'm going to cross it all off. It's catching up as a facade. It's a lie that I tell to myself. But the reality is that such is life, right? We're always going to have to-dos and things added to the plate and lots of things, plate spinning all of at once. But when you're turning your goals into reality, it really starts with the SMART goals that you have for you and your Avon business. But it comes down to applying those goals into tasks that are consistent. And campaign in and campaign out every 2 weeks, we have that opportunity to really maintain consistency in those value added activities. That with a good plan, you'll be sure to do the right thing with the right stuff as you dedicate your time. You're going to get the return on the investment. Because, of course, then you're going to have to integrate into those value added regular tasks the life happens to do's like we all experienced recently here in December. So Gloria, did you cook less over Christmas than you did Thanksgiving?
Yes, I did, but I went to we always have this New Year's get together, and everybody bring a dish and to celebrate now. My mother and my aunt who died of breast cancer, and all our kids. My mother only had 3 kids, but she had 10 kids. So all their kids and their children, and that's what we do first of the year.
So you were cooking some more.
Yeah, I cooked spaghetti, grilled pork chop, and these some sausages, different sausages, and took over there.
You guys always have a tendency to make me hungry on these calls. Do you all do the quote unquote traditional? I guess traditional is probably defined by the area, but like black eyed peas and collard greens and those New Year's foods that are supposed to bring health and wealth.
We do the black eyed peas. Make sure we do those
Mm-hmm.
first. Yeah.
Got to get those in. How about you, Martha? Did you enjoy your hubby and your time off?
I did. We really did have a very relaxing holiday. We didn't really have any plans. We slept late. We went out to eat. We did things together. We didn't really have anything specifically, so we just enjoyed our time together.
How nice is that? And the irony that we're going to speak to planning, and most of you just got off a little hiatus or coming off of a hiatus for where planning wasn't something that you worried about. Gosh, if we only had more times like that, right? Um,
Yes.
and again, I think that when it comes to a good plan, especially with your business, turning your goals into reality becomes very consistent and autopilot, so to speak, so that you really can enjoy times like the holidays and other times, of course, throughout the year where you get to kind of take that breather from the monotony and the haste to you not have to worry about those types of things. But it really does, it comes down to those clear goals, which you're starting to set, you're continuing to set, and then putting those goals into an action plan, consistency, and onto your calendar to do regularly. So that said, planning is super different for all of us, and we're going to speak to some of those differences here tonight, but we'll really speak specifically to your planning, your needs, your calendar, because Diane might love a paper calendar. Actually, I could see Diane doing a mobile calendar or something on one of her tablets or her phones, whereas Martha might like the paper calendar. Or maybe you don't have a calendar. All of these things, the calendar, the planning, the tactics, it's all so different for each of you. But nonetheless, we'll talk some specifics, more generalities as we cover these things in our agenda. We're going to talk first about the O of boss, which applies to planning. That's our outreach. Because when you look at your business, I would say 9 times out of 10, the success will lie in your continued and consistent outreach as you work to grow your team. But then from there, planning to grow your team, but then planning your Avon time. So you're growing your team. What does it look like then in terms of planning your time for the tasks for growing it, the task for the proper onboarding, the right balance of activities, so to speak. We're going to talk to prioritizing and gaining control so that you're managing your calendar and it's not leading you. And then we're going to start to take some specific action looking at a 2-week calendar. So bless you. I think those were sneezes.
Yeah, this is man talking about allergies.
Goodness gracious, bless your heart. All righty. So the O in boss is outreach. And when you look at our boss selling model, again, your belief, your why, that's fueling everything. It's what brought you to this call today. But your outreach is that ongoing maintenance. It's the success piece. That's just, really kind of something that you forever keep your finger on the pulse of. So this module is primarily about the O and boss outreach. And part of your plan will include things like, who do you need to know to achieve your goals? Who? And then what? What do you need to do to meet new people? And then how can this be applied to your calendar on a consistent basis? Again, it might look different for all of us, but ultimately, let's begin by talking about how you can plan to grow your team. All right, so pretty cut and dry here. There are really 2 primary ways to grow. We can recruit new representatives to join Avon, and we can help some of our current representatives achieve a leader title. When we looked at your goals, we looked at both of these things. The plans are going to be applied to these things specifically. But the fact is that the 3 of you, especially on this call today, you have teams where it's not about to get to the next goal, how many people that Diane needs to bring aboard. Instead, it's more like, how many leaders does Diane need to develop, because they're the ones who will bring the people along on the journey, right? But the fact is that that's probably the goal for most leaders. Again, the 3 of you for sure. But simultaneously, you should be recruiting and identifying your own new G1 team members to join Avon. But let's discuss this further. So, in regards to planning to grow your team, these 2 tactics, who are your next team members and your leaders that will be bringing in team members, what are some of the best ways that you're currently using to find people to join Avon?
I don't know if it's a best way. The only one I feel comfortable talking to people, besides the grocery store kind of thing, chatting, is the Avon appreciation. However, I'm wide open to other ideas as well. I've also been doing the social network type stuff, hoping, somebody out there in cyber world might see it, but that has not transpired.
So let's talk to both of these things. First, you mentioned Customer Appreciation Day. And you and I spoke into this. This is my favorite way of prospecting. personally too, because you want to do something that you feel comfortable with, that to be good in terms of approaching somebody. I also love it because it's duplicable. You could teach a team member to do that. That might be one of your next steps. But so in terms of field recruiting, this is the primary thing that you're doing to find your next team member.
Pretty much, yes. I'm not a in the parking lot stop people kind of gal. It's not quite one if I'm sitting in a fast food restaurant to go up to someone. It just depends. It might be, I might have the spirit move and see a lady sitting there by herself and say, oh, here's something to help pass the time. It might have been a long time since you saw an Avon book, and then conversation might start. But the appreciation is typically my go-to.
So that's what you're doing to find your next team member. Have you ever done this tactic with somebody on your team?
Yes, we go out together so I can teach them how to do it. I'll do the first few, and then once we leave the building, she's already got the little sticky pad, and I'm telling her all the things that we heard the person say to write down. We've already gotten the pertinent information. And then going over later on how you do the follow-up. Sometimes that's where everything gets lost, no follow-up on their part, and perhaps I should follow up with them. And I guess even though you're teaching them what to say, they're maybe not that comfortable with follow-up on the phone. I can see now where I'm saying it out loud.
I was going to say, I feel like you had a light bulb moment in front of the group. Like, by the way, guys, I just paid Diane to do that. And I'm teasing. I love that. I think that that's so organic and so real. And the reality is it's something that we all can benefit from doing more of and growing from, and then learning from the experience. So to your point, you're comfortable doing it yourself. Doing it with somebody else is really where you're at in your business, Diane. That's the key. Yeah, we always want to fuel our own G1 funnel, but to get to that next level, what representatives are your next leaders? And then how can you do this tactic with them? Not just the tactic of prospecting, AKA customer appreciation, but the whole gamut that it includes. The prep beforehand, the actual during, of course, the follow-up after, the continual follow-up. Those things that you all know how to do well is really when you plan what you want to be thinking to do as you're developing your next people. And so a lot of your plans will really want to be centered around that. Now, if you were an up-and-coming promoter or bronze ambassador, it might be a different conversation, but the three of you here are established. So one more question to keep you on the hot seat, Diane. Yeah, you're such a good trooper always. So how frequently are you doing customer appreciation, either alone or with somebody else?
Well, I try to do it once a campaign. I'll pick businesses along the main street or office building, that kind of thing, and obviously wherever I'm going. But I actually seek out a place. Then I'll write down information after I've gotten their information, and we'll follow up back with them. And when I follow up, it's basically bringing them more books, and I've kind of broken the ice, so I don't have to go through all that formality stuff, and it can be more personable, if you will, and being more of yourself. Sometimes, as we all know, sometimes it's just orders, but it can always lead into being a team member too, based on what they're saying and that kind of thing, and how the conversation goes.
At what point are you introducing the conversational selling piece where you begin to kind of uncover some of their needs?
They might say something like, oh, this is my second job, or yeah, this job doesn't pay too much, I'm having a hard time, making it. Just depends, because like before the holidays, some of the places, like an ice cream shop, isn't that busy. It's cold, people are busy and they're not running out just to sit there. So I had quite a conversation there. So I'll definitely be going back to that place. more conversation at places that are slow. I try to go when the business opens up. Little different if it's a medical office. Sometimes that takes time to bring that into the conversation. I try to listen and create questions, if you will, that might lead into that. Like, is this your main job or full-time, part-time kind of thing? And then kind of go from there as the conversation goes. It's not like I start out like that by any means.
And then I think that the conversational selling piece applies so much right here, because as we learned in that module, it's about being interested and not interesting. And so it sounds like you're intentionally planting seeds within the conversation, where applicable and appropriate. But are we really getting to like an emotional piece with that person? I think that's something to be considering when we're looking for our next team members, and then B, finding our representatives who are our next leaders. What is that driving emotion? And we have a really great opportunity with it being the first of the year to kind of use that as a spin. So final question, kind of a bridge off of that same question. How often are you taking representatives on your team out doing customer appreciation with you?
That I'm guilty in that I was doing more of it before than I am doing now. And when is the last time? I can honestly say it has been a long time, probably 6 months or so. I guess I got frustrated in that I was spending the time, and it's just a personal observation for myself, of course. I was spending the time with the person. We would meet ahead of time, all my supplies, we'd meet at McDonald's, get it all set up. And she knew the plan ahead of time. This is what we were going to do. This is the X amount of hours we're going to do it. And not a long time, but you know what I mean. And I guess, and maybe it was more me now that I'm saying it, maybe it was more me wanting to show the person than them wanting it to put their heart and soul into it, to do the follow-up. Because after a while, time had gone, and I had said to the gal, well, how is it going? Not too long, but going back to those business, oh, I never went back or got in touch. And it was like, duh, that's what we went over. So I thought, well, I'll start doing it on my own more, because I know I can handle doing what needs to be done. Probably sounds bad now that I'm saying it out loud again.
No, and you are, I can guarantee right now that both Martha and Gloria can completely relate to what you're saying, because working through somebody else is potentially a challenging task. But I think that again it comes down to the planning piece. So what can you plan to do before you meet with them that's not even relevant to the actual meeting, but their development before and after. So we're going to get to all of that. So you said all of the right things, and I think that the observation here is that there is the potential to plan for more frequent identification of who your next leaders are, and then of course developing that plan to develop them. So that's going to be all a part of your one-on-one for sure. So Martha, Gloria, I'm sure you can relate to everything that Diane just said. Yes,
absolutely.
Anything to add? So in terms of, are you doing anything specific on a regular basis for prospecting your current new team members and or identifying and working with your next potential leaders?
Well, I am not at this time working with any potential new leaders. It's been a while since I have gone over my list and tried to talk people into it. And that's basically what you do, is you try to talk people into it. It doesn't appear that anybody on my team wants to grow a team. So no, I haven't done that in a while. I did it in years past, and I understand the frustration that Diane was speaking of, because I experienced the same thing. It's like You give them the ball and they drop the ball. So what I am doing is I put a lot of brochures out in businesses. I have a lot of businesses that let me put brochures there, and I am putting recruiting flyers taped to the front of the book. So I not only have on the back of the book my name, my home number, my cell number, my email address, my web address, and the dates that they can place orders. On the front is a recruiting flyer with also my contact information. It's the Avon recruiting flyer. I know we discussed this on our call. It's the Be a Beauty Boss recruiting flyer. Earn $1,010 in your first 90 days. And I filled it out with my contact information, made copies and put 4 to a page and cut them. And I am taping them to my brochures that I'm leaving in businesses. So far, I've not received any response, but we'll see.
Yet. And for our discussion, one thing that you can add to that process would include where the fortune is in the
Yes.
follow-up. And so,
In the follow-up.
right.
Right.
So the point here is that you are being specific and intentional, which is part of the whole goal setting piece. And so now in developing a plan, an intentional plan for, in this instance, we're just talking about prospecting activities, you can plan to make sure that you continue to meet new people and hone that skill by just tweaking a couple of things. In this case, it's the whole follow-up piece, but it will certainly go beyond there. And so you've got to take solace in the fact that you really are doing a lot of the right things. And we're going to continue to look at ways that are specific to you. Whereas that tactic for, let's just say, customer appreciation might work really well for Diane. Gloria might not like it so much. And so we'll find something for Gloria. I think you've all spoken to maybe doing more virtually. So that's, again, when we get to your specific one-on-ones. But it's really all about planning to connect with new people. And so before I go through a little bit more in regards to the prospecting activities that we'll begin to plan for, of course, in addition to our other planning principles, Gloria, anything to add that you have done or are doing to identify your own G1 new team members, and then B, look at potential new leaders on your team?
Well, what I did was I went through my list of people, and those that almost like I pulled out all my President Club members, and I made a list for them. And then I turned around, and those that were selling probably 250 above or more, I pulled those out. And I'm going to contact different ones. And like I said, I was going to try to do that 425 club. Mm-hmm. So that they'll be doing their sales, and at the same time, they'll be working towards President's Club. Only takes 385 or so, 380 something to make President's Club. And then those that's doing like 150 to encourage them to up theirs a little bit. I was thinking about doing the giving them a drawing for $50 worth of Avon merchandise. So the ones that come closer. And then I got one young lady that she says she wants to come up in management. So I'm working with her. But that's the same lady came to my little Christmas thing.
So if you don't mind, Gloria, just to elaborate on that, I'm glad you brought this up. I would like to recognize Gloria for hosting her first ever live in her home team meeting. Woohoo! Woohoo is right. Woohoo! And she had one person come.
Right.
And next time, because right, it only takes one, right?
Right.
Right.
I shared with Gloria a story about a gal in my last coaching class named Crystal Sperlin. And Crystal had her first team member, and she had 0 people come. but she did it again, and then she had 2. And then on her third, she had 6. This is exponential growth, like we know to be true in network marketing. And it's really just paid off in exponential growth in regards to the size of her team and their engagement. So it only takes one. And Gloria had that one come to her first meeting, who then later on the very next week came to a team meeting that Gloria's upline, or really I guess your upline's upline, hosted. So she's got this girl engaged. And really that momentum with one is all that it takes. And so I love that you're looking at ways to connect with new people, but also in order to find your next team member, you're going to want to talk to people that you already know. This is your warm market. So your warm market could be the people that you're already working with, or that you've been working with, had conversations with amongst your team members. You're keeping in mind that those people who said no to the opportunity in the past might be in a different place right now. Again, new year, new opportunities, new spin on the whole reason why they might want to consider something like leadership, whereas they may not have been ready to do that in the past. And then the introduction of Aspira. So lots of reasons to reflect on and loop back around with your warm market. But of course, it's important to find opportunities to connect with new people, because every interaction that you have is an opportunity to grow your business, whether it's grow with new orders or grow within your team. So when we start your planning piece, when we look at the 2-week calendar, we're really going to be intentional first with planning prospecting activities to ensure that we continue to make new connections. That's then going to lead into the planning tactics and the processes that are involved in properly onboarding this new person, and making sure that you have the pieces on your calendar that support that continuously. But again, it starts with the prospecting. So just a few ideas. So reflecting on your success and repeating that, because if Gloria's already had a successful team meeting with one person, why should she not have a second successful meeting that will surely net more than one? Looking at your top customers, I don't think that you guys would be the leaders who would be scared to approach your top customers, because you already know the value of onboarding a customer to become a team member and how easy it is to replace a customer, right? But just in case you're concerned, your top customers already value the products. They would likely value a discount in those products. So maybe that's something to consider again in this new year, using that spin. Be sure that you're leveraging your personal network, because again, people's circumstances change. I know that you're already involved in each of you in your communities, so leveraging those opportunities. Fundraising, for example. When was the last time that you looked at your involvement in your communities and community events like festivals, job fairs, etc., to plant the seed for conducting potential fundraisers, because that's an amazing resource of new potential team members and of course new sales as well. And just running regular meetings. I love that Gloria did a team meeting, but as you evolve in the whole meeting piece, consistency, integrating in the Avon opportunity meeting. We have a new Avon opportunity meeting, and it should be posted on Vibe. I'm saying that. I'm having a Diane moment where when I realize what I'm saying, it should be reflected upon and reviewed. I'm going to check to be sure that the new Avon opportunity meeting is in fact uploaded into Vibe. It's a really amazing PowerPoint that it helps people see the opportunity. It really kind of spells it out, but it also helps them to see the benefit and potential of network marketing in general, and connecting that to Avon with their goals and why. It's a PowerPoint again, and it's kind of lengthy. And so one thing that I want you to consider is how we can take something like a PowerPoint, giving you the size, and maybe reducing it to content that's more applicable to the people that the audience that you might be going after, and then ways that you can utilize something like this. So, for example, I'm just thinking out loud here, you can create from this PowerPoint a video that shows the slide with your voice. And you can email that out to potential leads once you meet them. Or you could just record a call. Free conference call lines will allow you to do a recording. That same thing, you blast out the replay phone number to a potential lead. Or you could sit down at Starbucks on a cold winter day like tomorrow and pull up the opportunity meeting on your laptop while you're meeting with somebody that you've met that's a potential lead, or even somebody that's a current team member that just needs to see the opportunity more holistically. But the bottom line is there are lots of ideas. Some that we haven't discussed yet, some that are going to be more applicable to you, your circumstances, your goals. And we're going to, again, start your planning activities by looking at your prospecting activities. So any questions or comments before we move on? Please, yes.
Oh, okay. One idea that I had after Christmas, I noticed that from the books that I've put out, I picked up quite a few online orders of people that I didn't know who they were. And I always send a follow-up email thanking them for an order, and of course letting them know that I'd be glad to give them a new book, whatever. But I had thought about this since I had several new online orders. The email that Avon sends us just gives us a phone number and an email address. And I've always just followed up by email. I've never received a response. So I decided that I'm going to try calling them and personally thanking them for shopping in my e-store and asking them for their address and telling them I want to mail them a thank you gift. And then turn the conversation into, have you ever thought about doing this yourself? So I'm going to try to turn some of these e-store orders into recruits.
Okay, so this is really interesting. A couple of things, and just for the sake of clarity first, you think the biggest difference is the fact that you've made the phone call?
I haven't made the phone calls. I have been following up by email.
Gotcha. Okay.
All these, I always follow up. When Avon sends me an email, they'll tell me that somebody that I had you have a new Avon.com direct order. And I can look on there. I got one yesterday. And I'm looking at it. Her name's Kay Adams. And it's got her phone number, her email address, and that she spent $60. So what I've always done was click on the email address, send her a personal email saying, hey, Katie, thank you for shopping in my e-store. I appreciate you picking up my book and placing an order with me. I'd love to be your personal rep. If you need another book, just let me know. Or if you need some samples, let me know. But I've never gotten a response. So it occurred to me, well, I've got a phone number here. Maybe I need to start calling these people and talking to them and maybe try to turn them into being something more.
Why not, right? Or at the least, you build a little bit deeper of a relationship and just conversation with people who are already showing an expressed interest in what you have to offer. So what do you think is creating the influx in more e-store customers? Have you changed any verbiage on how you're promoting it?
Have I seen any verbiage?
Or have you changed any of your verbiage? So it sounds like you're having more e-store orders than you have in the past.
No, I think it's just that more people are picking up my book
Okay.
in different businesses, and they don't want to fool with an Avon rep. So they're just going onto my site and ordering. But they're not responding to my email, to continue purchasing or whatever. So I thought, well, maybe I can call them and just say, I don't know what you ordered. All I know is you placed an order. What type of products did you buy from me? And find out, what they bought, and then maybe try to engage them.
If I can interrupt, on the web office on the right-hand side, and I'm not sitting at my desktop now, so I can't go to it because I don't want to lose the screen on my iPad. But just before, underneath where it says your URL is, it'll list new customers that have tapped into your email, your web office, your e-store, and orders. And if you click on their name or even look them up in your directory, customer in the web office, you'll be able to see their invoice. Now, if they...
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Right, and you can do that two places. One on the right-hand side, just under your URL is, and it'll have a number there of how many new customers there, and I forget the others, but another one is a new order. You'll see that before you get the email from Avon, and if you click on that, you will see their invoice, because I send them a personal handwritten card, and I put my business card in it, and then I add them onto my list for campaign mailer. And after talking with Kelly, I am going to do the phone call follow-up. But it's a way you can see, because then I write a note, what is she buying? Because if she's just buying deodorant, I might not want to send her a brochure, you know, with something else, but I might want to call her, like you were saying, and say blah, blah, blah. If there's a sale on a new and she ordered a new, then I might want to follow up. But yes, you can see their invoice either when they place their order on the right-hand side or going into the address book and look at the tabs on the top that'll have their order history.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know that.
Well, and Diane, while you're sharing, and this is just a perfect example of going that extra mile and how it can benefit, didn't you recently actually meet one of your e-store customers in person or go to their home?
Yes, I did. A couple of them. One of them, she was saying something, and then I said, well, I'm right in your neighborhood, because she wanted me to meet her. I could have met her at work, which would have gotten me maybe more business. But then I brought her, I had hand creams here that I had stocked up on and brought those to her. And sometimes they just don't know. We live around the corner from each other.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But that way, yeah, making the
that's my reason to call them, is that I want to get a gift to them.
Right, and I did have one sign up. I'm going to reconnect because she stayed with me a short time, but I'm going to reconnect with her, and that was part of what I was doing this weekend, is connecting with removed representatives from as far back as 2012, saying new Avon is doing blah, 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 and that kind of thing. But to answer your question, Kelly, yes, I've met a few of them, and just to kind of elaborate on this same thing, it might be too, I was talking to some of my representatives, President's Club members, that don't, believe it or not, use online. They're not online at all. I mail them things so they can stay abreast. And I'm going to talk to them about making sure they have their e-store address on their books. And it took a while to explain that a rep's site is different than a customer site, using it like Amazon.com or something like that. But how I explained it to them is, and I already said this to Kelly, and I know you're gonna, it just still cracks me up. Christmas time, I was handing out books, you know, doing the Avon appreciation. I went to a service station near us. I wanted something to drink, and I tried to make a purchase. And then I was talking to a young gal, probably in her 20s, and I handed her that set of Avon, and she looked at me with a straight face and said, "Oh my, you're real." I said, "Yeah, I'm real. I'm an Avon lady." And she said, "I saw you. You were in Edward Scissorhands movie, and you were at the door." And and what it reflected to me is there's a generation out there that hasn't had Ding Dong Avon calling. Their moms worked. They didn't have that. So to some that haven't been exposed to Avon, yeah, we are real people, but they had no idea. They were born with a cell phone in their hand. So they know online, you know, like the back of their hand. So that might be the generation, who knows, but perhaps that are, in a good way, picking up your books and ordering online, and maybe would like to have the discount because they might be starting out a young family or something. But that just, I had to keep a straight face when she said that. And it took me a while to figure out, if they haven't been exposed to it, that's all she knows.
It's such a valid point, and to that point, I'm like my wheels are just turning right now. For starters, I think it's interesting how you guys are talking about just doing one extra step and tweaking it and what it can come to mean. But as you do that, think about the words that you use. So, for example, if what Diane's saying is true, and it could very well be the people who are picking up your book, Martha, and having these online orders are those who just, they're not familiar with this whole like relationship process. They're just used to this, ease and simplicity of ordering online. So when you talk to that person, what you say to them and how you uncover it to be able to be sure that you're saying the right thing, that messaging is so important. But find out things about them to then embrace them with the things that will be appealing. Hey, when you become an Avon representative, you have your own website where customers can shop from you 24/7. It's really being a resource connector and taking all those things that you know about the business and applying them appropriately to the right people at the right time. But that requires your effort in asking the right questions. So. And also being aware of our tools. The Welcome 10 code comes to mind immediately. So as you're taking this extra step and making the call, Martha, be sure to let them know, hey, next time you go onto my site, use the code Welcome 10 when you're checking out. No matter the size of your order, you'll get 10% off. That's an ongoing code that we have. So,
Yeah.
True story, you can always use that. So something you can be putting on your books too. So again, think about your verbiage. That's why I asked you, had you done anything differently lately, in terms of tweaking something that you've done, maybe the recruiting flyer, or even if it's just, labels. Like I used to put labels on my books and I would kind of change up the labels to be the same but different every time. But it's amazing how just a change of a few words can reap a whole different result. It just nets something more because the words are more impactful or grabs a different person's attention. So sometimes the words that you use, so even going back to Diane's Customer Appreciation Day example, maybe Diane, you might want to revisit some of the customer appreciation words and doing the exact same principle with some updated verbiage could again net, more different, better results. And then again, keeping in mind too, and we'll transition from this conversation, but I love that we're talking about virtual opportunities. And I think that, Martha, it's interesting because you're talking about doing a traditional approach, a phone call, to try to maximize this virtual opportunity. But if they're not responding to you otherwise, why not, right? But what else can we do besides make a call? We can text them. So if you have their phone number, you have the chance to text them. And if you're not texting via your social media center app on your smartphone, OMG, you are missing the boat. The social media center app on our web office is amazing. I think that our branded posts and promotions are gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous. Those same posts are available on the Social Media Center app. And in addition to posting them via email or via Facebook or however you're using them with social media, you can send them via text. So this Welcome 10 code promo that's somewhere housed within the Social Media Center app, instead of you just texting it to them, you could text them the whole like promo piece of it. Just that's one example of a gazillion things available. But consider the audience, consider your verbiage and your messaging, and just consider the frequency and the consistency. And that's really going to be the tactics that we plan to in relation first to the prospecting piece. But what I want you three and really every leader, you get to this point, you three are there. I want you to also consider which representatives are your next leaders. Martha, you just mentioned that maybe it's nobody right now on your team, and that could very well be true. I don't want us to throw the baby out with the bathwater, though, because again, things and circumstances change. I think we identified an opportunity to really leverage this new year in Aspira to, focus on certain segments of your team to maybe plant that seed. But the fact is you might need to find those first generation recruits first with proper onboarding, which we'll do in your planning. That will help you then identify your next leaders. But that's the point where you guys are all at. You are all at the point where your potential leaders are going to be the catalyst for change and title movement in your particular business. But it's finding the next Gloria. It's finding the next Diane and Martha. That's not easy, right? So let's shift here for a sec and focus on our plan for identifying your potential leader on your team. This grid is a really good visual that will help you as you're looking at team members, maybe considering those that you're already working with, to define their, I like to call it skill versus will, but on this grid it's called motivation and sales success. The purpose of the grid is essentially to help identify who they should focus or who you should focus on helping to achieve title as a leader. So as you can see on the chart, the higher their motivation and the higher their current sales success, the better the potential leader that they might be. If they have low motivation and high selling success, that's not really the formula. And I guarantee that each of you are thinking of somebody right now, right? You know somebody who has that high selling success. You've had this conversation with them before, right?
Bingo.
Right? But conversely, what about that person who has high motivation, but maybe hasn't experienced selling success? And Gloria, I immediately think about your gal that came to your meeting. She's motivated. She came to 2 meetings in less than 2 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. So what a blank canvas of opportunity to teach her fundamentals for selling success simultaneously as you teach her the fundamentals of building a team. Because the fact is that if somebody's out there looking for new customers, building your team, it can really just be as easy as asking one more question, which is why it's so frustrating that your successful sellers, don't have that motivation because they're already doing most of the work, right? But the seeing the big picture and that motivation is key. And sometimes it will really be reliant on you to define that motivation within a team member. But first consider, who believes in the opportunity, who loves the products, who's said they want to grow, who is driven and has a good skill set, who's coachable and open to trying new things, who participates, who is positive, who do you already know that's helping others. Hopefully you know some of the dynamics of these people within your team. If not, it's time to get to know your team, right? So that's the motivation side. On the selling success side, that's pretty easy to really identify. Gloria, you already mentioned that you've already analyzed your reports. First, looking at the segment of people who've already achieved President's Club, then looking at the segment who's having $400 orders, then looking at the segment who's having $200 orders. And each and every campaign, because I know that the three of you are big analytics. So doing those tasks you're already doing to analyze your team, segmenting those groups appropriately, and then having the appropriate conversation. Because again, it's you as a resource connector, as a leader, you're a resource connector, and it's connecting the right resources to the right people. But to do that, you've got to maybe segment these people so that, you can identify them and then have a similar conversation with each person in their respective segment. But, so generally speaking, who is growing their sales. So maybe not just having consistent high sales, because again, that's a person we probably had this conversation with. And it's not to say that we won't have it again, because circumstances do change, but who is actually increasing and who's having consistent orders and doing the fundamentals that we know to be successful for any representative, like paying on time, servicing a really solid foundation of customers, and leveraging Avon's tools. You know that you can pull reports from your Vibe that lets you know who's ordering demo products, who's ordering how many brochures, who's already investing in their business. Maybe that's a segment of people that you haven't considered yet. So this is kind of a starting point. And again, we're going to speak to this specifically on your one-on-one, in correlation, of course, with your own planning for prospecting. But anything else that you really deem to be important as you look for your next leaders, whether they're people that aren't on your team yet or people that are, any other important qualities? I think that covers most of it. If we could just clone Gloria and clone Martha and clone Diane, then this business would be a cinch.
Well,
Right?
I look at who uses the products too. It's important that they use their products and believe in their products. And believe it or not, I've had some reps that didn't buy everything Avon, and I don't understand that. Because everything I put on my body and in my household, it's all Avon brand. And I have reps and have known people that they go buy some other brand shampoo, some other brand makeup, some other brand products. And I don't understand that. If they're selling this, why they don't use it.
Their personal testimonial can go a long way. So yeah, to your point.
Sure.
So what kind of things do you do to identify who is or is not using the product?
Well, I know in meetings, in the past, when I would have a meeting, we would maybe have an icebreaker game and say, all right, dump out your purse. Who has the most Avon products, you get a prize. Or, we talk about what's your favorite product, and then someone will say, oh, well, I don't use this or that, or I don't use this or that. And I would just be shocked that they weren't using the products that they were selling. And I would say, well, what do you use instead? And I would just be flabbergasted at some reps that didn't use our own products. They would go buy somebody else's, because I'm loyal to my products. So I'm not going to go to Walmart or Target and buy other stuff that I can get from my store.
But Martha, I used to use Fashion Fair, okay, before I came in Avon.
Uh-huh.
And I really liked their products because they made me look good. It was natural. Okay, it took me a while before I started with the foundation. I had to take time, but I still used to use their lipstick because I just like the color that they had for me. But Avon came out one Christmas with that gold. It was a sparkle gold into the lipstick, but they you can't get them anymore. So I just happened to buy me up enough of them, But now I've tried the Cherry Jubilee, and I've stuck with the Cherry Jubilee. So now, it takes a while. You got to introduce them to it. Ask them when you're talking to them. Ask them, when you're talking in a meeting, you have to ask them, what do they use and this and that. They got to try it first.
Right.
I think that that's such a good example, and not just for your current team members, but also conversations that you can have with current customers that could lead into conversational selling about the opportunity, or chance encounters that you have. But kind of hinging off what we were just talking about in regards to identifying new potential leaders out of your current team members, without having meetings regularly or without having that purse activity, which I happen to love, by the way. It's always kind of fun to see how many lipsticks we carry, because I know that I dig into my purse and looking for a pen, and I can always find lipstick and never a pen. So it's nice to feel good in that company. But truly, so how can we do that now in a more remote type of environment? And the fact is that our Vibe reports, it might not necessarily tell us who's using the product, but it does tell us who's investing in their business in the form of demonstration tools, business tools, things of that nature. And that can lead into that conversation, to Gloria's point, that helps them to see the value. You're getting a discount on these things that you already have in your bathroom. Why would you not take advantage of our shampoo, conditioner, lotion, et cetera, et cetera. And then utilizing that as a source for them to generate more business, more engagement. Because I guarantee, just listening to Gloria as she chimed in and talking about Cherry Jubilee, do you sell a lot of Cherry Jubilee, Gloria?
That's when they look at it on my lips. Yes, they like the color. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Your testimonial that you just shared in regards to just making that statement, I just heard it virtually over this call, and so I can only imagine how powerful that is when you're talking to a customer or a new potential customer, or again educating a new team member. So very, very applicable in regards to ways that you can engage your current team members. And again, starting by segmenting with reports that we'll take a deep dive into when we look at your Vibe one-on-one, but then, identifying some of these other opportunities, because I think that the product piece, leading with product, especially considering we have this new Aspira launch, it's very real, and it's a very good opportunity for you to generate potential new leaders from your current team that may not have wanted to go into leadership until Aspira. So, but it's about how you're positioning it, so think about that. Like, how are you positioning Aspira? What are you doing to promote it? How can you really maximize it? Have you ordered samples of it? Are you taking the Aspira challenge? And I'm asking all these questions rhetorically, but if you haven't done some of these things or considered them, then quite frankly, you're behind the 8 ball, because Aspira it's essentially here, and the new year, and it's a really great time to maximize that. So moving forward, now that we've determined how we can plan to grow our teams, and again, we'll look at this individually. I want to shift the focus on the time and activities. Your Avon time is that time that you dedicate to your Avon business. And in our goal setting conversations, I ask each of you to begin to really intentionally jot down your Avon time, so that you can really have a good, clear picture of your time spent and what those activities are, so that we can be sure that you're having the right activities, getting the return on the investment, or maybe needing to make some shifts. And because we're all juggling so many things, our family time and our time with our spouses, and social time, and me time, you time, and then of course Avon time. So the only way that you can really ensure that you achieve spending time with all of these priorities and on the right things in your business, is to plan. I love this piece of it, and I'm really excited to tackle this and bring this to life, specific to you, because I can name several examples of leaders who have gone through this process with us, and I'll just give you one example. Debbie Henry, she achieved Gold Leader thanks to Alma leads. Lucky her, she was buying some. She was also receiving some free ones, and upwards of 10 or so new appointments on her team every campaign, but not moving the needle at all. So looking at her time and how she's spending it was all invested in the conversion of those Alma leads, and nothing with the onboarding of those leads that actually joined. And so with a slight shift in intentional planning with specific onboarding actions built into her 2-week calendar, she achieved, and I should say, I said she's a gold leader, but when this process started, she was a silver leader. And as a matter of fact, so she achieved gold leader within the coaching segment when she took the class. She's now in a position where she has team sales that would equate to executive bronze leader. She's got to get some planning, intentional time and activities to develop her leader to get a gold leader to get to that bronze leader or bronze executive leader level. But I think it's just a really good example of taking your current state and really looking at where you're investing your time and where your opportunities lie. So a lot of really good lessons learned as we uncover this. But let me just generally ask you, how much time do you think you currently dedicate to your Avon business?
In a day or in a week? Or
let's talk in the terms of a campaign. 2 weeks.
My notes are downstairs. But I'm up in my sewing room.
Well, my days vary because I have so many other responsibilities taking care of people. So some days I work Avon 6 hours and some days I don't work it at all. So it just depends.
And that's the beauty of being independent, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that, as you set your plan, you have to be sure that you take that into account. But then realize too that your goals apply to that plan. It may be something that instead of having the goal to achieve something in a month, it might take you 2 months. But that's okay because you're going to get there with those intentional tasks. And again, with the allotted amount of time dedicated to them. But so it's okay that you don't know the answer, Diane, because we're going to really look at this when we do your one-on-ones, because you want to think about how much time you think you're dedicating to your business versus how much time you are dedicated to your business and how much time you want to dedicate to your business. Because those are 3 very different things possibly, right?
Right. And I think that you hit the point too, because I'm like Martha. Some days it's a lot. Like today I was doing a lot. I kept track of what I was doing. But, was it busy work or was it whatever? Just there's only so many hours in a day. So I'm looking forward to to maximize the time I do put into the business to benefit, if you will, the time spent.
Absolutely. So just to kind of wrap up on this planning time, because this is really something that it's important, but it's the focus to be effective is going to really come down to us looking at this one-on-one. But what things do you feel like, generally speaking, should be considered when you are establishing your Avon time? Like, for example, Martha just mentioned your other your other responsibilities throughout the day, so that's something to consider, right? But what else do you need to consider when establishing your Avon time?
I think along with that is the things I volunteer that I have things going.
Yes, for sure. Because that's on your calendar too. And those are your big rocks for sure. Your family and, holidays.
Well, and even time to do laundry and do the dinner. And
that stuff doesn't do itself? What are you talking about?
Oh, how I wish.
Right?
I wish.
Well, I do have a housekeeper and she was here all day today. So that is a blessing. So I have a beautiful, clean home and I have all my clothes washed and it doesn't last long, but I enjoy it when she comes.
All right, Martha, so, now you're just showing off. I'm just
it is not a luxury. It is a necessity in my household. I have had 5 neck surgeries and back surgeries. And I have degenerative disc disease. And my doctor told me after the 5th one, he said, you can no longer push vacuums and bend over and scrub things and lift heavy things and change beds. You can't do that anymore, or you're going to continue to have surgery after surgery after surgery. So you need to find a way to work it into your budget, to have a housekeeper and someone to do your laundry. And this was probably 15 years ago. So I've had a housekeeper for 15 years, and my Avon pays for it. And
I was
I'm
just going to say, so I would bet, I was just hoping that as a betting
Yes.
person, you sometime within your career, you had this goal, and that this goal is kind of a necessity, but nonetheless, it's a luxury that you can then create into a goal to then you apply to a plan to achieve the result. So it kind of ties into everything that we're talking about. This is just something that you have already checked off of that goal list. You've made it happen, and that's what goals are all about. As part of your application activities this week, when you're going through the homework, you're going to reflect on your goals, because that's going to be how we establish your Avon time. That time becomes your plan, then the plan evolves into the specific activities. And so this is something that you've been doing well before you took this coaching class. And I think it's a perfect example, Martha, of how that can come to fruition and be something that you can appreciate. So good for you.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. He told me, he said it's a necessity. So when the doctor set both of us down and said, you've got to do this, I made it happen.
I love it. So actually, it's a perfect segue. So what we're going to do in these next couple of slides is kind of close out by really talking a little more specifically about achieving the right balance of time. This is going to kind of set your mind to begin thinking about your application guide. Your application guide, your homework for this week, of course, we should have it complete before we do our one-on-ones. Tomorrow, I'll send you a one-on-one call schedule. The application guide was a part of the original invite email for this module, that this group setting group module, group seminar module. I'll spit it out eventually, guys. So definitely revisit that email for those two documents that I included, but they're also included here when you look at your audience view of the GoToTraining and that little pop-up on the right side. You should see two materials. And again, those are the same two documents that I included in the email. So your application guide for this module and your reference guide. So again, the next couple of slides is going to really allow you to kind of get your head around some of those things that will be applicable to you, your balance of activity and time specific to your goals and your needs. So we're going to talk about how we actually spend our time, because like Diane said, you want to get that really important, proper investment on the time that you dedicate to your business. First, start by thinking about your current title and goals and your current time spent. The time you actually spend working on your Avon business. When we work through this one-on-one, we're going to bucket these things into activities like planning, selling, managing, leading. These things that look very similar to some of the pieces that you graded yourself on in your very first module. If you can think back to that very first module and how you kind of had to say what your strengths and your opportunities were, kind of using that same type of quadrant. And then understanding where these lie within your business, whether they're part of your personal business, your first generation appointments in your sales, or the development of your team, the team side of your business. So you want to ask yourself how much or what percent of your Avon time you're spending on these things. How much time are you spending planning? How much time are you spending selling or managing or leading? So just looking at these four things, what's your initial thought for yourself? Where do you spend the highest percentage of your time right now?
Personal.
Anything so personal is, in this example, planning, selling, managing. Of those three, what do you do the most of?
Ooh. Not planning.
That's interesting because I feel like you are very analytical, and that would definitely fall into the planning piece.
Mm,
Maybe managing things like placing your orders, delivering
yeah,
orders. Okay.
yeah, managing probably. Um, and selling and managing is what I spend most of my time doing.
Okay. And so, thank you for that example because I was going to use Diane's example of the last time that she took a team member with her to do Customer Appreciation Day has been 6 months. So, when you think about how you're investing your time, where Diane wants to go is to build her team, but yet she's working on that personal side of things. I would bet you're all in that same place. So just using that as an example, which you just kind of reinforced there, Martha. And the fact is that even though this slide says to focus 50 to 75% of your time on personal business, I want to actually challenge you to really work towards a balance of 50%. But then how do we bucket that? So if you're doing mostly selling right now, maybe it needs to shift towards planning or managing. But ultimately, to get to where you need to be, considering where you are right now, you're all going to benefit from a larger focus on leading. But you got to get your team to the point where they are ready to be led, right? So that's where this whole balance comes in. And right now, today, you might not be able to specifically determine the right balance for you. But we're going to start to work towards that as we look at the specific pieces on your calendar that will help you plan towards your goal. So once you understand how you should balance the activities, it's important to actually plan what you're going to do. Your application guide will help you begin to start some of these planned activities and put pen to paper or some ideas at least. And then collectively, I'd love to listen to your thought process behind them and help you sort them out. So you write down all of your planned activities, what you're currently doing, what you want to do. And then in order to prioritize them, you want to reflect on the activities and break them down into tasks when possible, because the more specific you are, the better. And that will also allow us to see where your opportunities lie. So again, the Debbie Henry example, so much time and effort and energy spent into converting her Alma leads, which was leading to success. It was working, but yet her business wasn't moving forward. I mean, picture 10 or more new first generation recruits every campaign.
Awesome.
Right? But when it's not moving your business, it's like, okay, what can I readjust in regards to my time and more importantly, my tasks? So again, the more specific you are, the better, so that we can identify these opportunities and really make your task more actionable and maybe less intimidating, because we're going to introduce some processes like onboarding that maybe you're not following right now. And that can be kind of an intimidating thing to think, oh my gosh, there's this whole onboarding process for, it's a lot. Well, it's really not a lot, especially when it comes down to being, small, actionable, but specific to what you're really working towards.
I have a question about her.
Okay.
Does Avon, or does she get free Alma leads? Does Avon give anybody free Alma leads anymore? I know I personally haven't had any in years. Are they all, do you have to buy all of them?
We do give free Alma leads. I will find the documents. Let me write myself a note, because y'all know if I don't write it down, it's not going to happen.
I believe we have to personally sign up too.
Yep.
Then they start coming.
Sign up for Alma leads, and they'll I think they have the Alma leads for $10, and they'll give you some, but then they got some that they give you for $4 or something like that.
Because I looked it up, you have to have your own personal, at least two.
To a campaign?
I don't remember that part, but because
I think you have to, after you start your Alma leads, when they start coming on, they have to do the sales also. If they don't see what you're progressing with the sales, then they're going to automatically stop sending you leads.
I don't get leads, and I haven't gotten leads in probably 3 or 4 years.
Myself either. However, a down member, I have a downline member that signed up 2 people within a short amount of time. I want to say a campaign or 2, and she's been getting Alma leads.
Mm-hmm. There are 3 criteria for receiving Alma leads, and that's what I'm going to find you. I'm going to find you the actual policy. So it is, to Diane and Gloria's point, you have to appoint 2 new team members within a certain period of time. It's not one campaign, but it is like a rolling 3 campaigns or something like that. So
with those Alma leads, they will take up your time because they're going to start to be sending you leads, and you got to phone call them, and then you got to go after you call them, then the computer thing will come up on the phone. You got to tell about the conversation, this is what happened, and then you got to do a follow-up, and all these follow-ups come back in. You got to Alma leads, it's work.
it is.
Yeah, I used to get them. I used to get them many years ago, and then apparently I didn't qualify any longer.
Right.
Yeah, so there is a maintenance piece to it as well. And to Gloria's point, she's speaking from experience. I can just hear it in her voice. Getting them and responding to them in a certain time frame, or you lose them. So yeah, I'll send you the policy if I can dig it up, because there are, in addition to having like the 2 appointments in a rolling whatever campaign time frame, you have to take the onboarding training that was on Avon U. So I assume there's something that's comparable on the new Avon University. So you have to take that and kind of check that off in the box, and then you have to opt in. And it might be a case where, since the program has been updated since the last time that you were receiving leads, that you're not even opted in at this point. So you may as well cross every bridge possible to bring in potential new team members, and
Right.
Just checking these things off, that the Alma opportunities definitely worth looking into. So I'll certainly uncover that information. And then, so to that point, as you bring in or have new leads coming in through Alma, that kind of tying it back into your activities, that's just something else that's actionable and really requires planning and intentionality on your calendar to be sure that you're maximizing them. Debbie Henry, I'm glad you asked about her as the example, because Debbie Henry was maximizing the lead conversion opportunity, but she just wasn't maximizing. She was like looking at a lot of quantity rather than finding the quality out of that quantity by really helping those people who joined to onboard properly and lay a solid foundation for business. And just that slight tweak in her time and her tasks really lent to tremendous growth. So it's about gaining control by taking those right actions. I think that's been reinforced here. So, essentially, in order to manage your time most effectively, you've got to prioritize your tasks and schedule them on your calendar. And we're going to work through this together. And I'm sure to much degree, you're already doing something in regards to your calendar management. But this image is something that you're going to go through an exercise on your application guide. And it's a prioritization framework. It allows us to consider tasks based on importance and on urgency. So considering that, I think all 3 of you guys are already making note of your Avon tasks, you can begin to take your to-do list or your doing list, your actual do list, and defining. Urgency is defined based on what is occurring within a current campaign, right? The holidays is urgent. Aspira is urgent. And tasks that are beyond the campaign, maybe they have a longer runway, so they're not as urgent. That's a way to kind of define how you really identify and put these tasks, these to-dos into the right portion of the quadrant. Importance is measured based on what will grow your business, those value-added activities that really give you that return on business growth. And those tasks that are less important but essential to run your business, are in a different place than those that are urgent to make your business happen now. And again, I think that where you guys are in your current businesses, there are likely some very important things that are not urgent that you're doing before you're doing those things that are important and urgent. So, again, you're going to do this individually and you bucket your tasks into the specific corners, and you see where that action is taken against each task. It's definitely an eye-opening exercise. And if you're not clear, if you're not clear on where something goes, or how it's prioritized currently, maybe it's something you're not doing regularly, or maybe you want to include a list, a want to-do list. Here's your to-do list. Here's my want to-do list. As you're working through this exercise, take note of these things, and we'll work through them together. Okay. So, any questions in regards to you taking the right actions and how you will work through this quadrant yourself, or the quadrant itself, and any questions with urgent, not urgent, important, less important?
I like the chart. Not that I have my priorities in the right place by any means at this point, but I like seeing this because it almost validates that could wait because you could do something else. And the one with the balance on it, I know mine's not perfect by any means, and that was an eye-opener too.
Eye-opening is the perfect explanation. And, I think it's just one of those things where we get into habits, or we grow a fondness to a certain task. And even if that thing becomes irrelevant, we still hold on to it for sentimental values, or because it feels good. But sometimes your success happens outside of that feel-good comfort zone. Sometimes it hurts a little bit, and so it might be like extracting that time suckage out of your life and replacing it with something that is more value added. So again, as you're going through this, when you go through your application guide, I'm going to challenge you after we look at your to-do list and we look at your quadrant. I'm going to challenge you to consider those things that you're not doing. Like an opportunity meeting, just as one example, or calling representatives on your team that you haven't had a conversation with in a while. Again, it's got to be so personalized, but I think that we're going to look at what you want to-do list as much as your current to-do list. And all in all, it's going to begin the process for setting yourself up for success with a plan. And this plan is not going to be perfect in the first 2 weeks that we put it into action. It will definitely be an evolution, but let's consider some additional things that we can do to set ourselves up for success. For starters, continue to focus on the more important and urgent tasks. Every so often, revisit this very task, this very application guide, like every quarter, and be sure that you are keeping the important and the urgent first, right? And that you're identifying, what they are. Or when you see a warning sign, take an opportunity to take a look at the tasks that you're completing each week, and maybe see the neglect or the opportunity or the chance to, if the warning sign is, I'm losing staff. Well, what are you doing or not doing that's urgent and important that you could be doing, right? And that's just one example, but it's definitely a kind of a constant check and balance. Think about if any of the tasks that you're doing can be delegated or scheduled. I love when things can be scheduled so that we know when to do them, specifically, and that it just kind of becomes part of our habit and process. And then which tasks can be clustered, because sometimes we're spending a lot of time doing things that we could spend less time doing together, right? And then you want to set appropriate expectations for when you're in the office and then when you're out of the office. So, when you're in the office, you want to think about something like establishing leader hours. Leader hours is a concept where you provide an open call line with a specific time frame where your entire downline can have that specific chance to call based on whatever their needs are. What a great chance for you to build relationships with them, just connect with them, let them hear your voice, but then answer the questions that they have and keep them engaged in the business. Just that as one example. And then what does it look like when you're not in the office? What does your space look like? We're going to talk about your dedicated office space, finding a place that's calm and quiet so that you can keep that sustained focus. I'll be honest, that's a challenge for me. My husband and I share a home office, and as much as I love him and love talking to him, he can be a constant interruption. And those interruptions can be time consuming and hard to rebound from. So, just things that you really want to consider as you set yourself up for success and think about a dedicated space. Or maybe consider things like working elsewhere, like a coffee shop. A Panera Bread, that's one of my favorites. So we'll really look to those things too. And then ultimately, it will all come together onto your calendar. The calendar, of course, it's your roadmap. It's your roadmap for getting the right stuff done, the urgent and the important, and all with the effort to achieve your goals. So this is an example of a 2-week calendar, and really digging into this specific 2-week action plan, you would see that the leader has marked her Avon time in purple. And so she's, highlighting it. So she has that immediate focus on the planned balance of activities on the times and the dates that she has set aside for them. In this example, again, if you were to really dig into it, you would see that, this gal works part-time. And so she takes her best a lot of time to focus on her business in the middle of her day when she's not working her part-time job, and then when her kids are out of the house. So maybe some of these things apply to you. Maybe there are certain times of the day that are better because you have other responsibilities. These are all things that we're going to take into consideration to develop your plan, and making sure that you really clearly things are going to change, right? But you understand your big rocks and the timing of those big rocks, because as much as you can set a calendar that will be easily integrated into your other priorities, you're going to be much more likely to be consistent with it and maintain it. And then once you complete your 2-week calendar, which you're going to do, and again, it's going to be an exercise in ongoing calendar management and planning. It's important to keep, again, that check and balance and reflecting and asking yourself questions like, does my calendar reflect the right balance of activities? Am I getting that return and investment as I work towards long-term and short-term goals? Am I planning to be busy or productive? Diane, you said it. Those weren't the words you used, but essentially, that's what you said. And so I love that you're really evaluating that. Can you delegate the task? Can you cluster the task? Are you setting proper boundaries to be effective with my time? That's interesting. So lots to take into consideration. It's crazy to think that we'll cover this in 1 hour with our one-on-ones next week. But the fact is we won't. It'll be a starting point for sure. But again, you should have your application guide. It's in the materials here, as well as the email I sent. And so the topics that we covered in this seminar content will all really become specific to you in your application guide, which this one is called Your Plan, Your Outreach. So definitely, kind of like with goal setting, really dedicate good time to this. I think that you're going to want to be thoughtful and detailed in your approach, not just applying your planning to your current to-dos, but also considering your want to-dos. And then those things that you identified early on as your opportunities for improvement, because we're going to really dig into, we're going to cluster those things. That's how it's going to look when we put it on your plan. We're going to cluster those things so that you're maximizing all of them simultaneously. So good grief, guys. I am so sorry I've kept you for extra long time today. But it is a pretty inclusive and can be an intense module, and really it's going to be a foundation for the future of your business if it's something that you practice and apply. So it's important. So I appreciate you guys hanging out. I will leave it open for questions and comments and whatnot. But let me first just share what our hot topic question is for this module so that you can start thinking about it. And when we get together for our planning collaboration call, which will be in about 2 weeks-ish, you can share about an experience in your past when you got lost. Explain how it made you feel and how you overcame it. Huh, that's interesting. Can't wait to hear your stories, your experiences about being lost and how it made you feel and how you overcame it. So before closing out, again, thanks so much for sticking on board tonight. Any final closing comments, questions?
I think this is going to be very challenging for me personally.
So from the outset, I love that you A, identify that you B, admit it, and then you hopefully see that you embrace it. So what do you think your biggest challenge will be?
Well, my brain is just spinning right now. So putting it to paper, putting all this down, organizing it and putting it down, it's going to be very challenging for me personally.
So we'll start with baby steps and fundamentals, because the fact is that you well enough to know that life is constantly throwing curveballs, right? Okay. Sometimes we wish that to not be so true, but at the phases in life that it is, let's just stick with fundamentals, and then that's where that really great quadrant piece and not just your to-dos, but your want to-dos can start to be integrated in. Let me ask the three of you guys a question. I should have asked this already. Are you already using some sort of calendar management planning tool? And if so, what are you using?
I have a large wall calendar that I get at Office Depot. And every bill, every doctor's appointment, everything that, well, I'm taking care of a lot of people, so I'm juggling a lot. So I have to put it on the wall calendar or I don't remember it. And then I also put it on a calendar on my phone. But as far as Avon, no, I'm not planning any activities except like on Tuesdays, like today, I always print out my report. I know the campaign closed. I printed out my campaign 1 results and my check. And I sent my email congratulating my top sellers and shared some tips. So I always do that on the Tuesday that the campaign closes out. Now, I do write that on the calendar, but no, I do not plan activities on a daily basis.
So we're just going to start with fundamentals then. You know what you're already doing, but you also know what you'd like to start working towards. And so knowing that, again, you have so many spinning plates right now, we'll just start with you breaking down activities into smaller, actionable tasks that you can achieve. Because when you achieve one of those, Martha, and it could be as small as sending a text to your representatives who haven't placed an order for the campaign, just hypothetically. When you do that and you see that it nets extra orders, you're going to do this incredible happy dance, right? And so that's just one example of small tasks that we'll find ways that you can start doing consistently. And then it's something to build upon. Rome was not built in a day, right? And so we'll get there. But the fact that you are embracing this, you're here, you're really engaged, and you already know what your challenges are. I think that's half the battle, truly. So anything else? How about How about you, Diane or Gloria? Are y'all using calendars currently, or anything to plan with? And what are you using in particular?
I
We
use
have
my
Apple products, so I use the iCal, and it goes on all the products that I have, the iPhone, the iPad, the main computer. And then I put alarms on everything.
So you are synced and aligned. You can run, but you can't hide.
Right. Now, in terms of what I have on there, not as much as I'm seeing on these slides, and that's going to help a lot. I have on there, like Martha, when it closes, to do the newsletters. Even though sometimes the alarm goes off, sometimes, it's like, oh, I'm busy doing something else, kind of thing. So I'm really excited about this, because it will help sort out spending the time in the most efficient manner. Because for me, sometimes I'll go to bed at night, and if I've got a little bit down, what I'm going to do, I just can't sleep because I'm thinking, oh, I got to do this, 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 and it's not written down, but I can't sleep because I'm thinking about all this stuff I have to do. And it's not just Avon, it's, all the different things I raise my hand for.
Yeah. Well, and then those things that you want to do, that it would be
Yeah, yeah,
those nice to do's that you'd like to get around to, and with proper planning, or again, the
right.
shift in your time, you might actually get to one of those days. I can relate in so many ways to everything that you just said. So,
Yeah.
again, with like with Martha, you're in a similar place, but different place, because you already have the big and little rocks on your calendar. So it's really looking at those tasks, and are they the right ones? Is it getting the return on the investment? It's just a different kind of perspective of the exact same type of process that we'll work through. So how about you, Gloria? Are you using a calendar or something to plan with?
yes, I use my Avon calendar.
And like, what is this, monthly, weekly? What are you doing specifically to plan in your Avon calendar?
I just write down the things that I have to do and things that I'm gonna do.
All right. So similar to Diane, it's going to be looking at those tasks specifically. This is going to be exciting, guys. So stay tuned. I'll send you an email tomorrow with the available call times, and then some open times as well, so that we can maybe spend extra time on planning. Again, revisit the goal setting piece before we then move forward into planning. Just be sure that we're getting you all caught up, and just keeping the important and urgent things important and urgent. That's the goal with this planning piece. My goodness, you see what I just did there? That was a lot of puns all at once. All right, guys. Y'all made me hungry at the beginning of the call talking about your New Year's food and Gloria spaghetti and all that. So I'm gonna run to have dinner. I hope that you guys do as well, or go spend some great time with your family before you start this Avon planning madness here over the next couple of days. Definitely reach out if there's anything I can support you on in regards to your application guide or anything else. And otherwise, I look forward to talking with you soon.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.